Treehouse, Book Number 31, A Merlin Mission, Summer of the Sea Serpent, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 1, Summer Solstice. Jack was sitting on the porch reading the newspaper. It was a warm summer day, but the porch was steady and cold. Annie poked her head out of the screen door. "Hey, Mom says she'll drive us to the lake this afternoon," she said. Jack didn't raise his eyes from the weather page. "Did you know today is the summer solstice?" he said. "What's that?" asked Annie. "It's the official first day of summer," said Jack. "There's more daylight today than on any other day of the year." "Cool," said Annie. "Starting tomorrow, the days will get shorter and shorter," said Jack. The loud screech came from the overhead. "Look," said Annie. "A seagull." Jack looked up. A large white gull was circling in the bright noon sky. "What's he doing here?" asked Jack. The ocean's 2 hours away." The gull swooped down and screeched again. "Maybe he's the messenger from the Megan or Merlin," said Annie. "Maybe one of them sent him to tell us the treehouse is finally back." Jack's heart began to pound. He put down the newspaper. "You think so?" he asked. Jack and Danny hadn't seen the magic treehouse since the Merlin mission to the haunted castle last Halloween. Jack had begun to worry that the treehouse might never come back. "Look, he's flying toward the woods," said Annie. Jack jumped up. "Okay," he said. "Let's go." "We'll be back soon, Mom," Annie called. Then she and Jack dashed across their yard. They ran down the street and into the Frog Creek woods. The shady woods were dappled with sunlight. The air smelled fresh and clean. Jack and Annie hurried past the leafy trees until they came to the tallest oak. High in the oak branches, the magic treehouse was waiting for them. "Wow," Jack and Annie said together. The treehouse looked exactly the same as when they last seen it. Annie grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack followed. When they climbed inside the treehouse, no one was there. "Look, our royal invitation is still here," said Annie. She picked up the card that had taken them to Camelot on Christmas Eve. "And our leaf from Merlin is still here," said Jack. He picked up the yellow autumn leaf that had sent them on their Halloween mission. "This is new," said Annie. She picked up the pale blue seashell. The shell was shaped like a small fan. There was writing on it. "Hey, this looks like Merlin's handwriting," said Annie. "We must be going on another mission for Merlin." She read aloud the message from the magician. "To Jack and Danny of Frog Creek, on this summer solstice journey to the land lost in mist, to the time even before Camelot. Follow my rhymes to complete your mission. M." Annie looked up. "What rhyme?" she said. "Let me see." Jack took a shell from her and turned it over. On the other side was a poem. Jack read the poem aloud. "Before night fell on this long summer day, a shining sword must find its way into your hands and out of the gloom, or Camelot's king shall meet his doom. To begin your quest for this sword of light, call for the help of the water knight. Then pass through the cave of the Spider Queen." "Spider Queen?" Annie interrupted. She frowned. Spiders were about the only thing she was afraid of. "Don't think about it now," said Jack. "Let's keep going." He read on. "Pass through the cave of the Spider Queen, and swim with the silky clothes in green. Enter the cove of the stormy coast. Dive beneath the cloak of the old grey ghost." Jack stopped reading. "Old grey ghost?" she said. "Don't think about it now," said Annie. "Keep going." Jack read more. "Answer the question with love, not fear. With rhymes and sword, your home is near." Both Jack and Danny were silent for a moment. "That's a lot to do before nightfall," Jack finally said. "Yeah," said Annie, "and I'm a little worried about the spider pot." part and a ghost part, said Jack. Hey, said Annie, if you're going on another Merlin mission, I bet Teddy will come with us. He can help us get through the scary parts. Right, said Jack. Just hearing Teddy's name made him feel braver. So, said Annie, onward. Onward was Teddy's favorite word. Onward, said Jack. He pointed to the handwriting on the pale blue shell. I wish we could go to the time before Camelot. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spill. He spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. The Water Night. A salty breeze blew into the treehouse. Seagulls screeched overhead. Jack and Danny looked out the treehouse window. They were high in the branches of the grown old tree. The tree was on the sea cliff beneath snow-capped mountain. The mountains overlooked a rocky coast. There was no sign of human life anywhere. It looked wild and lonely here, said Annie. Really lonely, said Jack. I wonder where Merlins and Teddies are. I don't know, said Annie. They were in the trunk of our tree last time. Let's look for them in this one. She climbed down the rope ladder. Jack crammed the seashells in his pocket and followed her. Merlin, Annie called. Teddy. Jack and Annie circled the grown tree trunk, but there was no sign of an entrance into the magical chambers of Merlin the magician. They circled the tree again. Jack tapped the bark in several places. I have a feeling no one's lived inside this tree, said Annie. I think you're right, said Jack. Maybe they're down by the water, said Annie. Annie and Jack walked a few feet to the edge of the sea cliff and looked down at the rock coast. They saw the three coves separated from each other by rocky cliff. The cliffs were filled with shadowy cracks and a dark mouth of cave. In the first cave, sunlit water flowed from the ocean sea through the small space between the cliffs, then washed into the pebbly shore. The second cove was smaller, but looked much like the first. The third coast was different. The farthest away, it was surrounded by the ring of bright green hills. A thin white mist hung over its milky green waters. I don't see any sign of Merlin or Teddy, said Jack. I guess we'll have to get started without them. Read the beginning of Merlin's rhymes again, said Annie. Jack took a shell from his pocket and read aloud. Before night fell on this long summer day, a shining sword must find its way into your hands and out of the glooms, or Camelot's king shall meet his doom. Jack looked up at the sky. The sun was almost directly overhead. It must be around noon now, he said. We don't have much time, said Annie. What do we do first? Jack looked back at the rhyme and read aloud. To begin your quest for this word of light, call for the help of the water night. Oh, easy, said Annie. It is? Said Jack. Sure, said Annie. If he's a water knight, he's probably down by the water. She started down the steep, rocky hill that led to the nearest cove. Jack stuffed the shell back in his pocket. But who is the water knight? He yelled as he followed Annie. It doesn't matter, she yelled back. We just have to go down to the water and call for his help. He climbed over large boulders toward the cove. The boulders were slippery, but Jack's sneakers kept him from sliding. A damp breeze blew from the sea. It made his skin and clothes feel clammy. When they got to the shore, Jack whipped the mist off his glasses and looked around. The wide beach was covered in slippery paddled shells and rows of sea foams, sandpipers, and gulls picked at tangled ribbons of soggy seaweed. The tide must be out, said Jack. He started the cliff above the cove. I don't know how the knight can get down here. A horse could never make it over the rocks. Let's just do what the rhyme tells us, said Annie, and see what happens. Annie stretched out her arms. She closed her eyes. She raised her head toward the sky and shouted, "Oh, water knight, whoever you are, come here and help Jack and Danny." "Oh, brother," Jack murmured to himself. Suddenly, they heard the wild cries of seagulls. "Jack, look," said Annie. She pointed toward the middle of the cove. Seabirds were screeching and flapping above the giant swirl of spray and foam. A swirl was spinning just above the surface of the water, headed toward the beach. "Wow," said Annie. She took off running across the sand. "Come back," shouted Jack. "No, come look," said Annie. Jack hurried to the edge of the surf. Through the whirl of spinning spray and foam, he saw the silver helmet of the knight appear above the water. He saw silver braced arm, then a strange creature burst through the surface, carrying the knight on its back. The creature has a horse head and neck and front legs, but instead of back legs, it has a long, silvery fishtails. With the water knight on its back, the horse creature half galloped and half swam through the cove. Seagulls shrieked wildly overhead, following the pair toward the shore. As the knight drew close to the edge of the water, he looked straight at Jack and Danny. He raised his gloved hands and beckoned to them. "Okay, we're coming," cried Annie. She started pulling off her sneakers. "Wait, let's think about this," cried Jack. "We don't have time," said Annie. He wants to help us. He's like a sage that came for us in Camelot." "No, he isn't," said Jack. "He's much weirder." But Annie tossed her sneaker onto the rock and splashed through the swallow water. The knight held out his hand and helped her onto the strange horse creature. The creature slapped its fishtail against the water, sending up the fountain of spray. "Come on, Jack," Annie yelled. "We can't waste time." Annie's right, Jack thought. They had to find the Sword of Light before nightfall. He pulled off his sneaker and tossed them onto the rock near Annie. Then he stepped into the cold water and waded out to the night. Annie helped pull Jack up onto the horse creature. He sat on its scaly tail and clutched to Annie while she held on tightly to the water knight's tunic. The silvery fishtail slapped the water. A shower of spray rained down on Jack. He closed his eyes. "Onward," he said faintly. The water knight turned away from the shore. With more slap of his tail, the horse creature began galloping and swimming across the cove. The seagulls shrieked wildly as they swooped after them, bumping up and down. Jack clutched desperately to Annie. He kept his eyes squeezed shut and tried hard not to fall off. As they sped across the cove, the water knight guided his steeds safely over each ripple and wave. A bumpy ride soon turned into a smooth one. "This is great," cried Annie. Jack opened his eyes. With the wind and spray whipping his face and hair, he began to feel more excited than scared. "I'll bet he's taking us to the Sword of Light," cried Annie. "We'll be done with our mission in no time." That would be too easy," thought Jack. But as they sped over the wave, he grew hopeful. "Maybe she's right. Maybe it will be easy," he thought. "Not all our missions have to be hard. But what about the rest of the stuff in rhyme? What about—" Before Jack could finish his thought, the strange horse creature stopped and reeled up. Jack and Danny tumbled over its fishtail and splashed into the cold water. They sank for a moment and then bobbed back up to the surface. frantically treading water. They looked up at the water knight and his horse. The knight lifted his arms into the air. He pointed to the pile of boulders near the base of the nearby cliff. Then he sprayed the finger of his gloved hands in the gesture of farewell. "Bye, thanks," shouted Annie. The horse creature slapped its fish tail and took off in the fountain of spray and foam. With the gulls circling above them, the mysterious pair whirled toward the passage between the cliff that led out to the sea. In a moment, they vanished into the open water beyond. Chapter 3. Cave of the Spider Queen. Gentle wave rippled through the cove as Jack and Danny swam to the foot of the cliff. They pulled themselves onto the boulder. Soaking wet, they sat for a moment in the warm sunlight and caught their breath. "That was so cool," said Annie. "Yeah, but why?" Jack gasped. "Why did he dump us way out here? What do we do now?" "Check the rhyme," said Annie. "What happened after we called for help of the water knight?" Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out the seashell. He read aloud. "Call for help after water knight, then pass through the cave of the Spider Queen." "Oh, right," said Annie. She took a deep breath. "Spider Queen." "Sorry," Jack said softly, "but don't worry. Maybe the Spider Queen is just a person. Maybe Spider Queen is her nickname. But what if she's half a person and half the spider?" said Annie. "Like a Raven King was half a man and half the raven." Jack shuddered at the memory of the monster on their last Merlin mission. "Don't think about that," he said. "Time's running out. Let's just find this cave." Annie nodded and smiled bravely. "Okay, you're right," she said. They stood up and started climbing barefoot around the craggy curve at the base of the cliff. As they rounded the corner, they both gasped. In front of them was the mouth of the cave. The mouth was covered with thick, sticky white ropes. The ropes were written tightly together in the crisscross cobweb pattern. "If that is a spider web, we're in big trouble," said Annie. Jack tried to sound calm. The side of the web doesn't actually tell us the side of the spider," he said. "Plus, I once read that no spider on Earth is bigger than a dinner plate." "Yeah, and no horse on Earth had a giant fish tail either," said Annie. "Good point," thought Jack. "Let's just concentrate on finding the source of light before the nightfall," he said. Jack picked up the stone the size of the softball. He hurled it toward the mouth of the cave. The stone sailed through the giant cobweb and into the cave, pulling the sticky rope like sand down with it. Jack turned to Annie. "Ready?" he said. She didn't move. Jack took her hands. "Don't worry, I won't let any monster spider get you," he said. He nodded toward the mouth of the cave. "Onward, onward," and repeated in the small voice. Then together, she and Jack stepped over the fallen web and entered the cave of the Spider Queen. Inside the cave, the walls were black and shiny. The ground was wet and slippery under their bare feet. "Yikes," Annie said, jumping back. The pale pink crab scurried sideways across the rocky floor. "Don't be afraid," said Jack. "There's not a spider." "I know," said Annie. I know," said Annie. "Sorry." As they went deeper and deeper into the cave, it grew darker and darker. Finally, Jack saw the faint light coming from the wide arched passage. "That way," he said. They stepped through the arch into the round chamber with a high ceiling. There were several large cracks in the ceiling that let the beam of sunlight. The misty light shine on musty green ledge and on the green, spongy-looking floor. Silver droplets dripped from above, curved floating into the tiny pools. Squeaking and chirping came from crannies and hiding places in the walls. "What's that noise?" asked Annie. "Probably just tiny cave crickets or baby bats," said Jack. "No, that noise," said Annie. "The whispering noise." Jack listened. Then he heard it. a low whisper. He couldn't make out a word. It just sounded like whisper, 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 whisper. The hair stood up on the back of his neck. Now he began to feel scared. This place is really creepy, said Annie. No kidding, said Jack, but we don't have to stay here not long. The rhyme says we just have to pass through the cave. So let's hurry and pass through it. Jack and Danny walked through the ghosty green light of the chamber. The spongy floor swished beneath their feet. As they searched for their exit from the cave, they both kept an eye out for a spider queen. Hey, look at the starfish, said Annie. She pointed to the bright orange starfish clinging to the rocky ceiling. How'd he get up there? Before Jack could answer, the wave crashed into the chamber. Water splashed over Jack and Danny. Yikes, said Annie. She and Jack jumped onto the misty ledge jutting out from the wall. The waves rashed back out. There was a moment of quiet. Then another wave surged into the chamber. It splashed against the cave wall, soaking Jack and Danny again. Oh man, said Jack, the tide must be coming. Soon this whole cave will be floated. The wave receded. For a moment, all was quiet again. We'd better leave now, said Jack. Quick, go back the way we came in. Jack and Danny jumped down from their ledge, but before they could escape, another wave crashed into the cave. This one swept them off their feet and pulled them down into the foamy water. Jack grabbed Annie's hand. Fighting the swirl's current, they climbed back up onto the mossy ledge. The water clunked and gurgled around the chamber. We can't go back the way we came in, said Jack. The wave will just keep knocking us down and we'll get caught in the current. Maybe we can go out through that crack, cried Annie. She pointed to the widest crack in the cave ceiling. It was high above the swirling water. It's too high, said Jack. We can't get up there. He looked frantically around the flooded cave, searching for another way out. Suddenly, he froze in horror. Clinging to the ledge near the ceiling crack was the Spider Queen. She had eight red glowing eyes. She had 8 long, hairy legs, and she was much bigger than the dinner plate. The Spider Queen was bigger than Jack. Chapter 4. Web Walk. Jack grabbed Annie's hand. Whatever you do, don't look up, he said. Annie looked up. Ah! She screamed. She started to leap off the edge into the clearing waters. Then another wave crashed wildly against the walls. Jack held Annie's back. Don't jump, she shouted. You'll drown. Above the sound of the rushing waters, a loud whisper echoed around the cave. Stay, stay, stay. The Spider Queen was staring down at them with her 8 red eyes. As Jack and Danny stared back in horror, the giant spider, showing the web strand as thick as a rope, straight toward them. Jack and Danny ducked. The strand stuck to the wall. What's she doing? Cried Annie. I don't know, said Jack. He and Danny looked back up at the Spider Queen. She crawled a few feet closer to the crack in the wall. She stared down at them for a moment with her glowing eyes, then shot out another thick rope strand. Watch out! Shouted Jack. He and Annie ducked. Thwack! The spiderweb rope struck into the ledge just a few feet away from the first. Oh no, look! Shrieked Annie. She pointed up at the cave ceiling. The monster spider was zigzagging between the 2 strands of the web. She was heading straight toward them. Jack and Danny screamed and pressed themselves against the wall. We have to leave, cried Danny. But before they could make a move, another wave crashed into the cave. The water swirled with fiercest force around the chamber. "We can't leave," cried Jack. "We can't stay," cried Annie. "Wait, wait, wait," whispered the Spider Queen. The giant spider kept zigzagging between the two lines, spinning more webs, coming closer and closer and closer to Jack and Annie. They watched in horror, unable to speak or move. But just then she came close enough to touch them. The Spider Queen turned and scurried back up to the ceiling, leaving the giant web ladder behind her. The Spider Queen stared down at Jack and Danny with her 8 red eyes. "Climb, climb, climb," she whispered from her spot on the ceiling. "I think she wants to help us," said Jack. "No, she wants to trap us," said Annie. The spider whispered again. "Climb, climb, climb." Something about her voice made Jack feel certain the Spider Queen wanted to help. "She doesn't want to hurt us," he said. "She wants to help us escape. Besides, we don't have any choice." The water was rising higher and higher over the ledge. It was rolling above their ankle now. "We have to climb the web," said Jack. "I'll go first." He reached up and grabbed one of the spider ropes. It felt damp and sticky. He pulled himself onto the bottom stand of the web ladder. "Grab on!" He shouted to Jack. He shouted to Annie above the roll of the water. "We have to get that crack in the ceiling." Annie grabbed one of the web rope. "Ew," she said. "It's gross." "Just climb," said Annie. Holding tightly to the sticky strand, Jack and Danny began making their way up the Spider Queen's web ladder. The web stayed and stretched, but it was sturdy enough to hold their weight. Its thickness kept them from slipping and falling. Crawling and climbing, they moved higher and higher above the crashing waters. As they drew near the crack in the ceiling, Jack kept his eyes on the Spider Queen. She was watching them carefully. Finally, Jack reached the ceiling crack. He swung to one side of the web ladder, putting himself between Annie and the giant spider. "You go first," he said. "Okay," said Annie. She grabbed the rocky edge of the opening and stuck her head out of the crack. "There's nowhere to go but into the water," she called. "How far down is it?" said Jack. "Pretty far," said Annie, "but I think we can make it." "Wait," said Jack, but Annie was already squeezing herself through the crack. Annie, be careful," said Jack. Splash. "Oh man," said Jack. He gripped the edge of the crack. Then he glanced back at the Spider Queen. Her glowing red eyes peered out at him from the shadows. "Go, go, go," she whispered. Jack smiled at her. "Thanks," he said. "Go," the Spider Queen whispered again. Jack pulled himself out of the darkness into the narrow rocky ledge. The bright sun sparkled on the blue water of the small cove below. "Come on," said Annie. "Come on," Annie shouted. She was bobbing up and down on the gentle wave. Jack took off his glasses. He pinched his nose and closed his eyes. Then he jumped off the ledge. Chapter 5. Blah, blah. Jack splashed into the blue sunlight sea. He sank to the bottom and then bumped back up. He coughed and pushed his hair out of his eyes. Annie was treading water nearby. "Hey," she called. "Hey," Jack sputtered. "I was wrong. You were right," Annie said. She sounded thrilled. "The Spider Queen just wanted to help us." "Yeah," said Jack. He shook the sea water off his glasses and put them back on. "She must be really lonely," said Annie. "She probably feel like she had to hide in that cave because she's so scary looking." "Maybe," said Jack. He looked around the second cove. Purple shadows stretched over the rocky seashore beneath the cliff. The sun had moved farther across the sky. "We'd better hurry," said Jack. "What do we do now?" "Read the rhyme," said Annie. Jack pulled the shell out of his pocket. Treading water, he read the next line in Merlin's poem. "And swim with the silky clothes in green." "What's the silky?" said Annie. "Who knows?" said Jack. He looked at the cliff and the shore. "Is a silky a fish? A person? What?" he wondered. Then Jack saw two dark shapes speeding like fat torpedoes below the surface of the water. They were coming straight toward them and Annie. "Watch out!" Jack shouted. "Yikes!" Annie yelled. Jack and Danny swam out of the way as the creature moved swiftly past them. Suddenly, two silk gray heads popped above the surface. They had white snout and long white whiskers. They had tiny wrinkled ears and big dark eyes. "Seals!" cried Annie. The two seals turned their heads like periscopes. When they saw Jack and Danny, they opened their mouths, showing their small pointed teeth. They seemed to be smiling. "Hi, guys," said Annie. "Brr, brr," the seals barked. Then they rolled through the water and bumped Jack and Danny with their noses. They barked again, joyfully, then darted toward the shore. "Come on," cried Annie. "Let's play with them." "We don't have time to play," said Jack, but Annie had already started after a seal, swimming toward the rocky beach. "Annie, stop!" called Jack. "We have to hurry and find the Silky and the Swords of Light before nightfall, or King Arthur will meet his doom." Jack's voice trailed off. Annie didn't hear him. She and the two seals had reached the shore and were getting out of the water. The seals crampedly hauled their chubby bodies onto the big rock and floated down. Annie climbed onto the rock too. "Annie, come on!" shouted Jack. "It could be as late as 4 o'clock now," he thought, and there was still a lot they had to do before nightfall. "Let's rest for a minute," Annie called. She sat near the seals and patted their shiny heads as if they were a big dog. The seal barked. Actually, Jack wanted to rest too. He felt really tired. "Maybe we could rest for a minute on the rock with the seals," he said, then searched for a Silky. "Well, okay," he shouted, "but just for a quick minute." Jack headed for shore. By the time he dragged himself out of the water, the seals were lying on their back with their eyes closed. Their white whiskers twitched as they slept in the warm sunlight. "Shh, they're napping," said Annie. She lay down beside the seal and closed her eyes too. "The sun feels really good, Jack. Come on, lie down with us for a second." "Oh, brother," Jack murmured, for afternoon sunlight did feel good. But the afternoon sunlight did feel good. He climbed onto the warm rock and lay down next to Annie and the seals. "Okay, just for a quick second," he said. Jack closed his eyes. The sunshine felt good on his tired arms and legs. The gentle sea breeze felt especially clean and fresh after the cave of the Spider Queen. The next thing he knew he had faded into the deep, peaceful sleep. Chapter 6. The Silky. "Wake up, lazy bones. You can't sleep all afternoon," said the friendly voice. Jack's eyes shut open. "Oh no," he thought. "What time is it?" He sat up and looked around. The seals were gone. Standing over Jack and Danny were a barefoot boy with a happy freckled face. "Teddy," said Jack. For a moment he forgot all about the time. "Teddy, Teddy," cried Danny. She leaped up and hugged the young searcher. Teddy grinned from ear to ear. He was wearing a brown tunic. His red hair was damp. "You're finally here," said Jack, laughing. "I've been here for some time," said Teddy. "Merlin sent me early this morning. I was waiting for you on the beach when Kathleen came along and invited me to go for a swim with her." Teddy turned to the girl standing a little farther down the beach. Like Teddy, she looked to be about 13. "Kathleen," he called, "come meet my friends." The girl smiled and began walking over the rock toward Jack, Annie, and Teddy. She wore a green dress that looked as if it had been woven from grass. Her hair fell in black ringlets down her wrist like a dark waterfall. "These are my good friends Jack and Annie," Teddy said to the girl. "They come from a far-away land." "Hello, Jack and Annie," the girl said in a bold, friendly voice. "I'm very happy to meet you. My name is Kathleen." As she spoke, Kathleen's large eyes sparkled with the blue of the sea and water. Jack couldn't speak. Kathleen was the most beautiful girl he ever seen. "I like your dress," said Annie. Kathleen laughed. "I wove it from sea grass," she said. I am not a very good weaver, I am sad to say." Do you live here?" asked Annie. "I do," said Kathleen, "with my 19 sisters." "19 sisters?" said Annie. "Yes," said Kathleen, tossing back her long curl. I'm the youngest of us all. We live in the cave up in the cliff." "Cool," said Annie. "Is your cave like a cave of the Spider Queen?" No, said Kathleen. "It is much more cheerful than Murray's cave." "So that's her name," said Annie. "I'm worried that she might be lonely." "Do not worry," said Kathleen. "Morange had many friends, bats, crabs, starfish, but it is kind of you to be concerned about her." She smiled at Annie. Kathleen finally gave Jack the courage to speak. He cleared his throat. "The water knight was really cool too," he said. "The water knight?" said Kathleen. "Yeah," he said, "the guy who carried us across the first cove." Kathleen looked puzzled. "His horse had a fishtail," said Annie. "How strange," said Kathleen. "I often swim in that cove, but I never seen or heard of such a night." "Have you lived here for a long time?" "Live here a long time?" asked Annie. "Always," said Kathleen. "Kathleen is a silky," said Teddy. "A silky?" said Jack and Annie together. "Yes," said Kathleen, laughing. "You're in Merlin's rhyme," said Annie. "It said, 'Swim with a silky, clothed in green.'" "Clothed in green. Merlin's rhyme?" asked Teddy. "Merlin gave us a rhyme to help us find the Sword of Light," said Jack. The smile left Kathleen's face. Her beautiful eyes darkened. You have come in search of the Sword of Light?" she said. "Oh dear." "What's wrong?" said Jack. "Many have passed through here seeking the Sword of Light," said Kathleen, "but as soon as anyone entered the cove beyond the jellyfish cave, terrible winter storms seems to burst out of nowhere. Even in summer the storm have icy winds and rain. No seeker of the swords had ever survived this gale." "Have you ever been to the cove beyond the jellyfish cave?" asked Jack. Kathleen shook her head. "My older sister had always forbidden me to go there," she said. "In fact, no Silkit had ever dared swim into the Cove of the Stormy Coast." "Cove of the Stormy Coast?" said Annie. "That's the next line in Merlin's rhyme. Enter the Cove of the Stormy Coast." "What is Merlin's rhyme?" asked Teddy. "Here," said Jack. "Look." He handed the seashell to Teddy. The boy searcher quickly read Merlin's message and rhyme. Then he looked at the sky. "The sun moved on," he said. "Let's make us haste. We must find the sword before nightfall, or someday Arthur will meet his doom." Wait a minute, said Annie. She looked at Kathleen. The rhyme says we're supposed to swim with you. Will you come with us? Kathleen looked at them for a long moment. Then she stood up and tossed back her curls. Her eyes were bright. I have always wanted to explore that cove, she said. Hurry, said Teddy. You will be the first Silky to do so. The grand adventure awaits us all. Onward. Hold on, said Jack. What about the jellyfish cave? You don't need worry about the jellyfish, said Kathleen. They cannot harm us. They cannot? said Jack. No, said the Silky. Not if we all change into seals.